We're going to talk about some productivity hacks and time management tools to scale your business with ease. One of the things you might notice is that there are people at different phases of your business, and I'm going to talk about all of those different phases and what you've got to be thinking about and why that matters. So just know that the new people, I've got things for you, and those of you that are further along, I've got things for you as well. So we'll jump in. And by the way, we've got an event. This is our last event of 2025. It's hard to believe this year is over. I'm ready to turn the page. And January 6th, we're going to be covering authentic marketing success. And then on January 14th, we'll talk about purpose and profit, which is obviously what ShipCo is based on, the belief that you can have both. And one of the ways that you have both is through authentic marketing. So if you want to attend those events, please sign up and join us in 2026. What ShipCo is we train conscious entrepreneurs how to grow their business and maximize their impact. A conscious entrepreneur is somebody that wants to do good and make money. We just believe that you can do both. I'm proud to say that 88.9% of the founders who use ShipCo double their business, and that 97% on average each month stay with us each month, which is great. So we get to fulfill our mission. Why I'm fortunate enough to do this is a long journey. I'll make it really short. I've had multiple large exits, which means I built companies and sold them, including an initial public offering of an internet company. And then in 2009, I started over with this crazy idea. There's got to be a way to do good and make money. I built the equivalent of a purposeful Shark Tank called Share on Purpose. That's our holding company. We have a speculator fund. An example of one of our investments is the first zero waste makeup and skincare line. Absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's the best makeup line I've ever had, and it's zero waste. It's 100% recyclable. It's beautiful. And so that's called Your Izzy. So that's an example of what the portfolio invests in. And then we also have what we call the cultivator. And the cultivator, we create companies. ShipCo is one of those companies. What's unique about ShipCo is that it was born out of Ignite on Purpose and Succeed on Purpose. And my clients in those businesses are the ones who pushed me to create ShipCo. And they were also the investors and startup team. So clients of mine who were using these methods actually are the ones that pushed me to create ShipCo. I am so glad they did, because I absolutely love what I do. And I feel like everything in my life led to this. But let's get back to you. I've been a founder for almost 25 years. And whether you're just starting or whether you've been doing it for decades like I have, you know that it is really hard to balance time and life in the business. It's hard. And this idea of balancing all of these pieces when the business is consuming a lot of your focus and a lot of your time, ironically, that actually is more difficult when it's purposeful, because it matters to you in very unique ways. And one of the things you have to balance is the doing of the work and focusing on growing the business. And every founder at every business phase struggles with, hey, I've got clients, or hey, I've got to, answer my email, or hey, I've got to build this thing. How do I actually find the time to grow the business and maximize the profit? So I always like to kind of take a poll, and kind of ask for input. Why do you think it seems so hard to balance the doing of the work and focusing on the growth and profit? And I'd love for you to put the information in chat. Lisa's going to be my voice Fana and read those out. Why is it so hard, whether you're just starting or you've been doing it for decades like I have? Why is it hard to balance these? Let's see what people say.
I'm going to read some of these out because I love what I do and feel the purpose. So I work too much. One is my passion, the other is overhead. Different mindset, types of energy required, because everything matters. Competing demands on time. Networking and building relationships can be a full-time job, I would see.
Great. All of that is 100% true. And the first thing that I want to point out is it's not you. I used to think there was something wrong with me when I would get into these periods of I can't get it all done and how can I grow the business and still do these things over here? And I thought it was me and I thought I was doing something wrong. You are not doing anything wrong. It is absolutely whether you're selling product in a market or you've built a software solution or you're working virtually as a freelancer, it is not you. It is absolutely what it's like. And I'm going to specifically tell you what it's like as your business goes through different phases. I'm going to specifically get into that. It's not you. It is the way it is. And there's some reasons why it is. And so what I developed is this piece of IP that I call Business Simple, which is about making it simple to scale a business. And I'm going to walk you through what that IP looks like and show you how to do it. How do you scale a business with more ease? So the way that I want you to think about this, kind of my big aha when I was beating myself up with the I'm not good enough bat. Why is this so hard? Why is this so hard? And I was, beating myself up with the I'm not good enough bat. What's wrong with me? And I happened to go to Colorado and we were talking about rock climbing. And I was really struggling with the idea of rock climbing. And so we got a lesson in one of those places in Colorado that help you. And I remember the guy that was doing the lesson. So this was my first entrepreneurial venture. So I think it was probably like 2006. And he said, Terry, you're thinking about scaling the rock from the bottom to the top. What I want you to think about, take a step back. And what I want you to think about is what's the first step that you're going to take? And I was like, well, I think I would put my hand in that little crevice. And he said, okay, put your hand in that crevice. And he said, okay, now what are you going to do? And then I said, well, I think I would put my foot on that little rock right there. And he said, okay, do that. And so I did that. I pulled myself up, one foot over here, left hand over here. And I was like, okay. He said, now balance. Okay, yeah. And he said, now what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I will reach up here and I'll grab this rock. And he said, okay, do that. And I kind of pulled myself up. And he says, where are you going to put your left foot? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to put that here. And all of a sudden I got it. When we think about building a business, we think about going from here to there. And it feels hard to think about that. I mean, I'm standing at the bottom of the rock going, that's a big, what rock? That's a big, how am I going to do this? That's what it feels like when you're building a business. We're standing here and we're going, this is really tough. How am I going to do this? And we're thinking about all of the scalability all at one time. And I couldn't figure out how to make it simple until I had this rock climbing thing. And then I'm like, okay, what I need to be thinking about is what is the next step? And that's when everything changed for me. And I built what's now known as the Conscious Business Growth Platform. I'm going to show you what that looks like. But I infused it with this question: how can I make building a business easy? And so, number one is I'm going to show you how to work only on what you need. Part of why we think it's hard and it feels hard is because we think we have to get it all done right away. Whether you're new or whether the business is a multi-million dollar business, you think you have to do it all right away. And so what you've got to begin to recalibrate in your mind is you're only going to work on what you need right now versus everything that's in front of you, just like that rock. Second thing is you're only going to learn what you need to know. The most daunting thing as a founder is there are so many things that you need to learn. And when I first became a founder in 2002, I was overwhelmed with the volume of things that I did not know. And again, that was close to 25 years ago. I did not know. And I was like, oh, I got to know how to do this. And how do I read this? How do I do that? I got to, set up my own website. I don't know how to do that. There's so many things you don't know how to do that it's very unsettling. And so the second tip, thinking like a rock climber, is you're going to learn only what you need to know at that point. You don't need to learn it all. You don't need to learn everything. And then third is you're going to solve well-known breakpoints early. And that's my secret to success is solving well-known breakpoints early. And I'm going to show you what those breakpoints are so that you get ahead of the stress. And then the last thing is when you're surrounded by people who've done it, which is the beautiful thing and why ShiftCo's in a community, we'll talk about these things. We talk openly about it. And you're in pods with people and like, oh, I'm struggling with that too. And once you know you're not alone, it makes it easier. So that's the overlay for how we can make it easy. These thoughts and this rock climbing example led me to create the what's called the Conscious Business Growth Platform. So here's how this works. And this is what ShiftCo is based on. These are the phases: launch, lift, shape, build, evolve, grow, and expand. Launch is 0 to 2K. You're just getting started, and we're trying to really take the ideas and turn it into a concept. You don't need to know everything in order to do that. We just need to know a few things. Lift is 3 to 10K. We're going to lift yourself and your business to profitable growth, mastering just 3 things. You don't need to know 50. To get a business above 10K, you have to master 3 things. That's it. So we're going to master those 3 things. We're going to get great at those 3 things. Business is going to lift up. And then you get shape, build, so on and so forth, right? So these aspects are all little pieces of skills and focus areas. And so what we do is there's individual learning pathways for each of these. And Business Simple, this is the beautiful part, helps you break through 3 fulcrums. Now, a fulcrum, I'm going to show you what these 3 fulcrums are, and you're going to self-identify and put in the chat which of the fulcrums you're in. A fulcrum is, if you think of a seesaw and there's a piece of metal that holds the 2 pieces of the seesaw, that's a fulcrum. And a fulcrum is usually a intensely strong piece of steel. And that piece of steel balances the weight on both sides of the seesaw. So I'm going to talk about what's on the seesaw in a minute. But there's 3 of these seesaws, 3 of these fulcrums. And when you hit these 3, that's when the business feels hard. The first one is called the time fulcrum. In the time fulcrum, when you're just getting started, and a couple of you are just starting, you almost have too much time on your hands. And you're building your documents, and you're building your plan, and you're building your product, and you're building your website, and you're busy, but the business isn't really going anywhere. Then you get a client or 2, and now you're working with the clients, and then you don't have time to go get new business. And that is a very, very tricky fulcrum. That one shows up somewhere between 1 to 2K a month, all the way up to around 5, 6, 7K a month. You're going to be in this time fulcrum where there's pressure on your time. The second fulcrum, and if you're in the time fulcrum, put that in the chat so we can kind of get an assessment of where people are. The second fulcrum is the resource fulcrum. Personally, I find the resource fulcrum the hardest. The resource fulcrum shows up around 7K a month, and it goes all the way up to 25 to 30K a month for those of you that are scaling your business. In the resource fulcrum, there's not enough time, there's not enough people, there's not enough money, there's not enough technology, there's not enough resources, and the resource fulcrum is tricky because the business is evolving. It's kind of like going from elementary school to middle school for those of you that have kids, and like the kids like totally one way in elementary school and another way in middle school. It's kind of like that. It's very tricky. And so the resource fulcrum I find to be the hardest. The third fulcrum shows up somewhere between 30K a month and $1 million to $2 million. If you don't solve the leadership fulcrum, the business will not scale past maybe 1.2 to 1.5, $1.5 million. It won't scale. And the leadership fulcrum is also tricky, not as tricky as the resource fulcrum. But there's a whole strategy for obviously how you get through each of these. And so Lisa, kind of where are people landing? Are they time fulcrum, resource fulcrum, or leadership fulcrum? You might be on mute, Lisa.
Mostly time.
Okay, very common. I'm going to cover all 3 so that you can see what it looks like. But the beautiful thing is you don't have to solve it all now. When you're in or approaching the time fulcrum, there's just a couple of things that we have to solve. I'm going to show you that today. When you approach the resource fulcrum, man, that's the trickiest. There's just a couple of things that you've got to think differently about, but I'm going to walk you through all of those pieces. So these fulcrum, just think about a seesaw. is balancing these two aspects of the balance. And I'm going to show you what those two aspects are. So Business Simple is about scaling your business profitably. So the two sides of our seesaw is supply and demand. And the fulcrum, which sits right here, so think of that seesaw, is a pressure point between two opposing forces in your business. Supply and demand are opposing forces. I don't care whether you're making a physical product, or you're a coach, or you're a trainer, or you're a systems analyst, or a contract specialist. Supply and demand, there's pressure between them. When you're just starting, there's no demand for your product, so you got tons of time. But the minute you start getting clients, let me get these off the screen here. The minute you start getting clients, now there's not enough time left. And what happens is you start servicing those clients. We're going through this right now with Izzy. We've got a resource fulcrum in Izzy where sales went way up, and then we didn't have enough of the product ready. And then it was like, oh, wow, now we've got customer service issues. And now we've got to take care of those customer service issues, which takes our eye off of the revenue side, and then revenue comes back down. So that's an example. Every physical products go through it, services businesses go through it, coaches go through it. It's a pressure point between these two forces. So remember what I said a minute ago, it's not you. Everybody goes through this. You're not doing anything wrong. What we've got to do is we have to figure out how to solve for this pressure point. Demand is basically the business revenue. How many clients do you have? When you're just starting, you don't have any clients. And that's the hard part, is how do I get those clients? But the challenge is you've got time. The minute you start landing those clients, you're not going to have time. And how are you going to get more clients? And then you get into this loop. It's like a treadmill where you're like, get the client, don't have enough clients, get the client, don't have enough clients. And then supply is, of course, how you're servicing or delivering that revenue through product inventory or service capacity. So remember, this is a pressure point that we have to manage between these two opposing forces. And by the way, if you have questions as we go, just put them in the chat, and Lisa will stop me as we go through and let me answer questions. I'll also take a ton of questions at the end and stay as long as you need. So let's break these down into those phases I talked about a minute ago. When you're in the time fulcrum, you are just getting started, and you're 0 to 2K, 2K to 3, or I should say lift there, not life, launch and lift. And you're in the time fulcrum, and it's very, very tricky because it's like, oh, in the beginning I have too much time, and then I get a client or two, and then I don't have time. And wait a minute, I got to get some more clients. And it's really, really difficult. Your revenue is going to look like this. Get the work, do the work, no work. Get the work, do the work, no work. Get the work, do the work, no work. And it's very, very, very tricky. And you get stuck in this loop, and it just feels like there's not enough time to work on the business, much less grow it. And that is why that's quite honestly, most businesses quit too early, and they quit because it feels easier to get a job. And part of the reason why it feels easier to get a job is because you need to learn how to get the business. And then when you get the business, you deliver on the business, and then you got to go back and figure out how to get more business. It's super, super, super tricky. So this is the first fulcrum you have to get through. And we hold your hand through that. Like, and there's, like I said, there's a team of people that work with you that help you navigate this. The second fulcrum is the one that I like the least. Anybody that knows me knows that I like this one the least. And this one happens in the phase that we call shape. And shape is you experience what's called the resource fulcrum. It happens between 10K a month and 30K a month. And our minimum that we want all of our members is to be above 10K a month. That's the minimum, because you can begin to build some financial freedom. But the challenge is you're going to be in this resource fulcrum. And remember, it's a pressure point. In shape, your revenue is going to look like this. And what's frustrating about shape is these loops. These loops are very demoralizing because it's like, oh my gosh, the business is going. I've got some client, it's working. And then it's like, nope, it's not. I don't have enough time to get new clients. I lost that one client. Oh my God. And then it's like you get through that and you're like, oh, it's working, it's working, it's working. Oh, no, it's not. And it's like, oh, it's working, it's working. So it's not. And it's like you don't have the big swings like you do in the last phase, but you have these demoralizing loops that are very, very frustrating. And so anybody that is in the resource fulcrum, I feel your pain. And this phase to me feels like Groundhog Day. That it's just like I've been here before. Why am I back here? I've been here before. Why am I back here? Why am I going through this again? And it just feels like there's not enough resources to scale the business easily. It's very frustrating. So this is what shape looks like. And progress and profit, just don't occur in a straight line. And we want it to be here and I go there. It's not a straight line. And I've been doing this, like I said, almost 25 years I've been a founder. Even businesses that I recently started go through this same phase. There's not a way to avoid it. It's going to look like this. It's Groundhog Day. The third fulcrum is the leadership fulcrum. This one shows up around 30K. We try to get our members through it by the time they reach 1 million. And the leadership fulcrum, it looks more like this. So now it looks a little bit steadier. The challenge, though, is in the leadership fulcrum, you're depending on other people. And that's what really makes it hard. This phase feels like step, then stall, repeat, step, and then stall, repeat. And each one of these, we've got one of our businesses going through this right now. And the person who's leading that business for me gets really frustrated because like, the team's not doing what I need them to do. And when I was there, I did it. Like, yep, that's just how we roll, baby. That's how it is. And so this one feels like climbing stairs, and you really just have to keep your eye on where you're going and not on what's holding you back. Now I'm going to give you strategies for solving for these, but I want to pause the recording and see if there's any questions. When people are asking questions, I don't like to have that on the recording. So I'm going to pause, be able to ask questions at the end. So, okay, we're like, great, Terry, that's great. I got it. I know where I am. That's exactly how it feels, but how on earth do I do it? Okay. So the first thing is you've got to figure out what needs to change. This is one of the biggest mistakes that people make, particularly in the time fulcrum or the resource fulcrum, is it just feels hard. You just kind of get what I call pissosity, and you're just frustrated and you're like, I can't do it. I should just go get a job. And what I'm going to show you how to do is how to define what needs to change. Is it on the supply side or is it on the demand side? So I'm going to show you how to do that today. Is you got to get clear. It's the lack of clarity most of the time that's frustrating to people. It's not the hardness of it. It's the lack of clarity and the not knowing how to do it. So we have to figure out first what needs to change. Then you have to understand what I call the net profit of time. Time is one of the most important assets that you have as a founder, and you have to figure out how to invest it so that you get a net profit on it. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm going to show you the 5 ways that you can work through these fulcrums. So let's first start with what needs to change. So the way that I help founders figure out what needs to change is by building this grid of energy and impact. How much do you enjoy doing it? What energizes your batteries? And how impactful is it to you in the business and the world? Another way to say it is, what do you love to do and why? So you build a grid, and feel free to take a picture of this. And you're going to say, okay, of all of the things that I'm doing today, just look at your calendar, look at your to-do list, plot them. And if it's high energy and high impact, it's going to really help you grow. It goes here. And so you look at your to-do list, you look at your calendar, anything that's very fulfilling to you and it's moving the business forward, it's helpful in some way, that's going to go up here. Anything that you have to do, like your, bookkeeping, but maybe you don't enjoy it, you got to do it. It's very impactful to know what your books are. That's going to go down here. And then anything that you love to do, but it's not necessarily moving the thing down the field, that's going to go here. And then the things that you really don't like to do, you're going to be ruthlessly honest with yourself, and you're going to put them in this grid. Social media, for example, a lot of people spend a lot of time on social media. I'm going to give you a hint right now. Most of you don't enjoy it. And then the worst part about it is it doesn't move the needle. Posting on social media is not how you grow your business. It's not, period. As a lifelong marketer and as a person who's taught entrepreneurs for 16 years, posting on social media does not grow your business. We think it does, and people tell us that it does. And those are people that are usually selling a social media course or selling services. Posting on social media does not grow your business. Quite honestly, you don't even need a website today to grow your business. I started a business with a two-page front and back, and never had a website for the first year, and those businesses grew. So a lot of the things that we think we need, we really don't need. And by the way, as we're going through this, make a list of some of those things. And when we get to the end, you can ask me and I'll give you my opinion of where they go on this grid of whether or not they're an impact or not. Another thing that I would say is bookkeeping, although it is important. I went a whole year with one of my businesses and we didn't do the book. So bookkeeping is not one of those things that's over here. Bookkeeping is right here. Building your product, for those of you that are just getting started, I hate to tell you, but most of the time, most of the founders that I start, they build a product that they love and they think that they need to build the whole thing. And I'm telling you, you do not. You need to build a prototype for your business. You do not need to build the whole thing. When I launch a new program, I build like one of the lessons and I have an idea of what the other lessons are, but I don't actually build all of them because you don't need them. So again, remember at the end, and feel free to take a picture of this grid. You can ask me any question that you want and I'll tell you where it goes on this grid. So that's the first thing is, all right, what do I really need to do differently? And anything that is down here, that's high impact, but it's draining you, we're going to build a plan to get that off your plate. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Anything that's up here, you want to spend your time on the things that are up here. Anything that's over here, you want to be very careful about because you can spend lots of time making the website perfect and building the perfect program, and then you go to market it and nobody buys it. So be very careful for the things that are here. And then literally, I think the things that are here is drop doing them. You don't need to do most of those things. So remember at the end, I'm going to take questions and we're going to come back to this grid. So that's number one is you got to figure out what do I actually need to do and what could go someplace else, which takes me to what I call the net profit of time. As a founder, you need to know what 1 hour of your time is worth. I'm going to show you how to calculate that. Because in the beginning, when you have lots of time, you have lots of time. There is going to come a point when you don't have lots of time. And the reason why you don't have lots of time is because you're wasting it doing things you shouldn't be doing. So right away, I want you to do a calculation of what 1 hour of your time is worth. Here's how you figure that out. Write down a number for what you want your income to be 1 year from now. 50,000, 100,000, 200, whatever it is, write that down. Get out a little calculator or a spreadsheet. Doesn't matter what the number is. 50,000 should be your bare minimum. All of you should be making at least 50,000 in a year from now. 100,000, 200, whatever it is. And then divide that number by 2,000 hours. That's about how many hours. And that's going to give you what 1 hour of your time is worth. So I have that calculation and I have an hour of my time is worth a minimum of $100. Now my bill rate, when I coach people individually is $375, but I know the minimum that I want to make 1 hour of my time for 2,000 hours is worth $100. I have a $100 bill sitting right here on my desk. And I look at that $100 bill and I look at my to-do list and I say, is it worth $100 to do these activities. Let's see, I want to follow up on some things. One of my clients need an active listening course. There's a book that I want to read. Somebody showed me this really cool trick on Zoom. I need to learn that. There's a newsletter that I want to send out. And I look at this list of things and I'm like, are these worth $100? And then I look at, well, what if I outsourced it? Oh, wait a minute. I could outsource that thing for $50 or $25. That would actually give me a net profit of time. So I started looking at this list. Literally, I do this once a week. And I'm like, you know what? Bev costs me $25 an hour. I'm going to give Bev these three things: the Zoom video, the automatic send of the newsletter, and this report. I'm going to give those to Bev at $25 an hour, and I'm going to actually gain $75 an hour. That's what net profit of time looks like. The key is you have to know what 1 hour of your time is worth. And in order to do that, you say, what do I want to be making a year from now? Divide by 2,000 hours. And then you do this calculation, and I do it. And I have some people cost me more than that. Some people cost me less than that. But I look at that to-do list, and then I figure out, based on that grid that I just showed you, where is it going to go? And so what you're doing is you're beginning to invest time. And remember, this is called Business Simple. It's making it look and feel easier to you. And so now what I do is I say, okay, I've got these activities. I know who I'm going to outsource them to. I am going to go get a client, and I'm going to get a new client, and I'm going to get income from that. And I'm going to invest a portion of that in these things that are on my to-do list. And now what happens, we come back to the same grid. And now I start saying, okay, I'm going to keep these things to myself. That course that client needs, I love building courses. I'm going to keep that myself. So that one's mine. I'm going to put my name next to it because I love to do it and it's high impact. And then, whoops, let me get that off there. And then over here, I'm going to delegate that. So these other things that are on here, these are high impact things, but I can pay somebody less than an hour of my time is worth. I'm going to delegate that. And then on the low impact, this one is kind of like, maybe we should put a question mark here. Lisa, maybe just put a note there. I like posting on social media, even though I know it doesn't make an impact. I've got, I don't know, 16, 17,000 followers. People comment on my stuff, but it doesn't really move the needle. But I really do enjoy doing it. So it really is kind of due with a question mark there. If I have the time left over, I'll do it. I don't believe in any of those crazy things about algorithms. You got to post X number of times a week. And I don't believe in any of that. I think that's baloney, but I do enjoy doing it. And so those are ones you kind of put a question mark. And then here's the killer. There are several things on this list that I really just need to drop altogether. Just drop them. They are not going to deliver an impact. They're not going to move my business forward. It's busy work. And quite honestly, I don't really enjoy doing it. And so let's see, preparing that report, that might go on that list. This Zoom video trick, it's kind of neat, but you know what? Is it really going to move the needle? No. Do I really want to learn a new trick in Zoom? No. So that would be something that I would cross off my list and say, I'm going to drop that altogether. And again, I'll be happy to go through this exercise with each of you. So that is what we call the energy impact grid and the net profit of time. The key is what it's doing for you is you want to do more of what you love. That was kind of my big aha. It felt hard because a lot of the things that I had to do, I didn't enjoy doing. And so instead of thinking and assuming I have to do them and wearing myself out doing those things, I don't do that anymore. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this. And I don't think it's going to move the needle. So I'm going to kick the can down the road. We're not going to do it. And then the second thing is when you can afford it, you delegate the high impact items that you don't enjoy. The things that move the needle, like I said, those things I'm going to give Bev, I don't enjoy doing them. She does, and I get a net profit of time when I delegate that to her. And then drop, and I mean, you've got to ruthlessly do the drop, anything that doesn't create a positive impact and that you don't enjoy. So that's how that works. Two other techniques for you, and then I'll pause the recording and I'll take questions. The other big insight that I had, and I had this, I think it was 2012. I was investing in a bunch of businesses and I was working with a bunch of founders, and I noticed that they were spinning their wheels and they were just doing stuff. And I happened to be sitting on the board of a company that trained athletes to become entrepreneurs. And I was on their board, I was on their advisory board, and they did this report. And the report said that athletes are 3 times more likely to build a successful business than non-athletes. Got my attention. And I'm like, okay, I was an athlete. I've been successful in business. Why? And why are these people that I invested over here spinning their wheels? And that's when it hit me that athletes have a way of training their mind and their body to make moves versus be in motion. A move is where you go from one place to another. I'm here and I want to go here, and you're very focused. A motion is the act of moving, doing stuff. The majority of founders, the reason why you don't have enough time is because most of what you're doing is a motion, posting on social media, building the whole product before you've sold the first module, yada, 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 versus a move. And the reason why I was successful both in my first entrepreneurial venture and since is because I have that athlete's mentality. Athletes don't waste energy. That's what makes Emmitt Smith great and Patrick Mahomes. I was so sad to see his injury. Lindsey Vonn, who's now back to skiing again at 41. They know how not to waste energy. They know how they've trained their mind and their body to make moves to go from one place to another. So you have to be ruthless with this, and you have to really look and say, are you in motion? Motion is just doing stuff. I'm just doing stuff, and you're not actually making moves. So a move is an effort with intention. I'm doing this thing intentionally. Moves are measurable. And so what I do is I look at the actions on this list and I ask myself a ruthless question. This Zoom video thing, will this move me to my goal? No. It sounds like a really cool tip that somebody gave me. It looked neat. Is it going to actually move the needle? No. Drop it. And so this idea of most of what founders are doing are motions, they are not moves. And it requires writing out that task list and being ruthlessly in your face about, is this going to move my business forward? And that's what causes it to work. The last tip, and then I'll pause the slide and we'll take questions, is what I call the 5 Ps. And the 5 Ps are how you simplify any business, whether it's just a few $1,000s a month or it's $1 million plus. There are 5 things that you've got to be looking at. One is the product offering. And the product offering most of the time is too complicated, or you're trying to build the whole thing out before you've sold it. I don't believe in that. And so you've got to be ruthless with your product offering. And we have little workout sessions to help people do that. And you have to say, do I need to build the whole thing, or do I need to just build a MVP of it and see what happens? And then the second thing you've got to do is people and resources. I've got to have the right people when I need them, and they need to be affordable. The biggest thing with founders that are purposeful is here. Almost all of the time, including in my own business when I first started as a purposeful founder, is we don't price things properly, and then the business isn't profitable enough. If you think that might be the case for you, go to our YouTube page. Follow it, by the way. Follow our YouTube page. There's a pricing training session on there that's phenomenal. It's free. And you can check that out. If you are already a ShiftCo member, we have a pricing coach that works with you just on pricing. We have a profitability coach that works with you just on profitability. But purposeful founders, their biggest issue is the business is kind of coming from this soulful place, and they tend to underprice it and they feel guilty about the profit. So we have to solve that. And then number four is tools, process, and technology. Some founders put this in too soon before they really understand how the business is going to work. And they build all the systems too quickly, and then the business changes, and then none of the systems work. So I would encourage you to be very careful with that. You want to do the bare minimum until you really understand the business. And then lastly are partnership models. Partnership models can either eat up your time or they can extend time. We have a strategy to help our founders scale using partnerships. Now, here's the thing, for these 5 Ps to work, what you have to do is you have to figure out which one you need to deploy, and we'll be more than happy to do that. I'll tell you how I'll help you do that in a minute. And then as soon as you get the time back, whatever time it gets you back, 2 hours a week, 5 hours a week, you've got to turn around and put that time back into demand gen. And by putting it into demand gen, that's how you get through the fulcrum. So that's what we call the 5 Ps. Okay, last thing I'm going to tell you, and then I'll pause the slide and take questions, and we'll work through that grid. There are 3 ways after this session that we can support you. Number one, if you think you might be ready to join Shiftco, we have a super, and I mean super secret promo. My email address is right there. You can email me and I'll tell you what that promo is. It is not public knowledge. We're not announcing it. It's not even going to be in the email. It's super secret. You have to email me to find it if you're ready to join. And you can see on our website, Shiftco is very affordable. There's no long-term commitment. Try it for a month. If you like it, stay. If you don't, no worries. But most people stay. So it's a super secret promo. Number two, if you're not ready to join, but you want help, I will give you a free coaching session. And all you got to do is schedule that. Lisa, if you could put my coaching calendar in there. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing any coaching sessions until January, but I'll give you a free coaching session and I'll support you on developing a productivity strategy using some ninja tools, which will be kind of like a free sample of how cool Shiftco is. And so that's number two. And then number three is continue to attend events. If you don't want the super secret promo or you don't want the free coaching session, just continue to attend events, and you're welcome to do that. For those of you that are Shiftco members, what I want you to do is I want you to work with your mentor and let's develop a scalability strategy for your business. If you don't know who your mentor is and you're new, email me or email member TLC and we'll work ahead so that you're developing that scalability strategy from the get-go. Remember, we've got 2 really cool events coming up in January, and what I'm going to do now is pause the slide and take questions.